Hey everybody, welcome back. Craig Shoup here with George Thomas, or is that Batman? I'm not sure. Based on the backdrop, we have the Dark Knight there supporting George, defending his backside there. George, how are you doing today?
I am well, thank you.
Fantastic to hear. Obviously, we do not have a Minecraft movie from George review. Unfortunately, was not screened.
You know,
I know you're sad about that.
other than Jack Black, and I like Jason Momoa going over the top like he did in the
Mhm.
last Fast film. But
Yeah.
other than that, you know what? Nah, I'm not too disappointed.
Yeah, probably not. Although Jack Black is always usually pretty reliable. So,
Yeah.
unfortunately, no Jack Black review today. But we do have a couple of streaming options for people looking to maybe start some new series or whatever they're looking for. We have Your Friends and Neighbors first. This is from Apple TV Plus, who, we've talked a lot about them, George. I think they're on a real heater right now with the
Oh man.
studio. I have really thoroughly enjoyed it. I will say this, though. The only criticism that I have of the first three episodes, there's a couple of them. One is I don't think it's as quite biting in terms of its satire. It's certainly not outward as much as maybe other satires have ever been. Although I think that first episode was about as out there satirically as it could be with the Kool-Aid movie rights being optioned. But
Yeah, that's
uh,
pretty intense.
that was a very and at first I was when you mentioned it, I thought, well, maybe it's like a little passerby kind of
Oh no.
comment. It was an entire episode, and even found a way to find Martin Scorsese at the center of all of it, which was hilarious. I was a big fan of the second episode. I thought it'd be interesting to see how they planned a second episode around one kind of particular situation, but they did it really well. And I think one of the things that they've done extremely well is when they have set up their jokes, they have paid them off very well, including yesterday when Ron Howard was the guest appearance along with Anthony Mackie in those two making a potential Oscar winning movie. And I thought it was hilarious that the big crux of why they were kind of bickering back and forth was about a certain part in the movie that was left in. And then what does the studio go and do? Well, it riffs off its own self by having Seth Rogen kind of mirror the scene in the movie that he did not like as the studio exec. So I've been very, very impressed with it. The only other criticism I've had, although I've kind of come around to it a little bit, is I was thinking maybe the show would be a little bit more polished in the sense of how it's shot. It's kind of shot almost in a documentary style, like really kind of like guerrilla filmmaking in the depths of everything, which I've come around to appreciate that a little bit more because I think it's really kind of showcasing the chaotic nature of these situations and how they sprout up and how they get so crazy from, going from 0 to 100 in like 6 seconds. So at first I was a little put off by it because it was you had a lot of like fast camera movements. You had a lot of documentary, spin the camera around at different people. You had a lot of back and forth swish pans, but I think it's actually worked a little bit more now, having seen a few episodes. Whereas it was a little jarring at first, but overall, though, I've really thoroughly enjoyed the show. I think it's a great dive into Hollywood and the behind the scenes look at everything. So I'm very happy with the first three episodes so far.
The second episode, was that the sunset
The
episode?
sunset, the
Okay,
sunset. So it was
great.
the magic hour, the oneer, the one take that Sarah Polly, who interestingly enough used to be an actress, went into writing and directing, and then hasn't acted for 17 or some odd years, and then they call her for the studio, and she does the studio. Now, granted, she's playing herself as a director, but how cool is that for her to come back into the acting fold that way as they're trying to shoot a specific shot in her next movie with Greta Lee and Seth Rogen and Ike Barinholtz's characters. Not maybe not Ike's character so much as Seth gets in the way so many times that it ruins a magic hour sunset shot that was supposed to be a one take, like literal one take, not a digital stitch one take where they shoot multiple different, sections and then stitch them together to make it look realistically one take. And again, I thought that had a great payoff where everything seemed to be going well. And then all of a sudden, what happens? Well, they get their as the scene is getting ready to close, they were parked in the way of the closing of that shot. So very, very fun. Um, really enjoying that show. But you have your friends and neighbors here from Apple
Well, wait
TV
a
Plus.
second. How you talk about the in jokey nature of it? How cool was it that he got two A-list by reputation now directors just to
Oh,
basically satire satirize themselves? You know what I mean?
yeah,
They
yeah.
poke
I
fun at
mean,
themselves, their images, and everything. Especially Ron Howard and his nice guy image. I'm like,
right.
hey,
Yes, his nice guy image kind of melts away very quickly, although in a fun way that Ron Howard's in on. Let's play against type and play against who you really are, and it's such a fun thing. I will say this: I think getting some of these people. Now, I will say Entourage back in the day was able to get a Martin Scorsese and James Cameron, but I feel like Seth Rogen has really, really utilized a lot of his, maybe you want to call them favors, from a lot of his
cachet.
friends in the industry, where he's able to get an Anthony Mackie and other people that are, big time players that are working in big time cinema to be on this show, especially a first season where they haven't really established, hey, we get good ratings, this show's very popular. It's a great show. People love it. You should be on the show. They're getting them in the first season, and it makes you kind of hopeful that they're going to continue this run of just great A-list celebrities that are going to be showing up in this universe because, like you said, and who would have thought that Martin Scorsese, who had a very bit part in Entourage, would come in and actually cry and tell jokes and have a lot of fun. And I mean, it was just, and I'm really like, I've told you this before. I love the shows and movies about movies and shows. The Academy loves it as well too. But this is really good stuff. It's definitely kept my interest so far. I know you've talked a little bit about when it doesn't work, maybe it doesn't work so well, but I feel like it's worked as just a very solid show, not necessarily always a satire. And so if that's kind of what they're going for, I see a little bit of that, and especially in the first episode with the Kool-Aid movie. But I think what they're doing more so than anything is sort of not being as eccentric with the satire and having it play a part as Anthony Mackie is too afraid to confront Ron Howard about not liking the movie, or Ron Howard is not going to play the typical Ron Howard like him. So I just think it's fun that they do this, and I think it's a testament to the types of people that Seth Rogen has been able to, maybe rub shoulders with or rub elbows with over the years, and has been able to kind of develop good relationships to be able to put people, even if he started a movie like, say, with Charlize Theron, he gets her in the show, he gets Anthony Mackie in the show, and it's just a great testament to his ability to kind of seal the deal here. So it's definitely been a fun show.
I agree. Like I said, it has its uneven moments, but you pretty much hit the nail right on the head. And I think I'm on episode 6 right now, so you might see some more of those uneven moments. So, but there's no reason to stop watching it.
Right.
The only reason I haven't finished it is because my wife would kill me. So there we have it.
Yeah. And so far, I have no reason to not think. I haven't really felt like any unevenness. I think the episodes have been well crafted. They've paid jokes off, and I think that they're not really just trying to like throw a bunch of ideas on the table. They're really focused, where it's almost like one movie per show is being discussed, and it's really making sure that they're not going off in like a million different tangents like other shows maybe have done or could do. So I've appreciated what I've seen so far, and we'll see what the rest of the season plays out like. But it's definitely been appointment viewing so far, even though it's only been one Wednesday for appointment viewing after the first 2 episodes premiered last week. But very excited about it, and I know there's another Apple TV Plus here with Your Friends and Neighbors. Is this another series that people from Apple TV Plus should enjoy?
Oh my God. This, I watched the first 2 episodes this afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And It stars Jon Hamm, first of all, but it hits different in a very good way because Jon Hamm plays a divorced father of two. His name is Andrew Cooper. He was a hedge fund manager, buku bucks, lots of cash, very rich. He catches his best friend, his wife, divorced. He's living in a rental house. She's got the 7-figure palatial home and the kids, and basically his best friend is, though not formally, basically living there.
Okay.
And the first episode is a setup telling where he's been, and then you get into the heart of the matter, and this becomes more like a satire on consumer culture. It's interesting to see Jon Hamm taking on this type of role, given that Mad Men was driven by basically that consumer ethos because it operated in the advertising world. But by the end of that first episode, we see where things are headed, and he realizes that everything he call it a midlife crisis, but everything he knew was BS. And I guess suddenly being poor makes you realize stuff like that because he loses his job under very circumspect circumstances. And all of a sudden, he finds himself with access to those palatial homes because of his friend circle. They still trust him. Well, guess what he decides to do? $130,000 watch here, $250,000 watch there. Those are the kind of friends. That's the kind of circles he hung out with.
Right.
He basically starts thieving to maintain some semblance of normalcy for him. Or it's not even normalcy, it's survival at this point, because when he loses his job, the company he works for kept his account, his personal investment account. So he's got no access to the amount of money he's used to, and he's still tooling around in a freaking Maserati of all things. Jon Hamm gives a wonderful, nuanced, angry, humorous, and for lack of a better term, a WTF performance. His character can't believe this is where he is, but it's like it's nice because in not believing that, he has that revelation, that epiphany. Now the question is, how deep in is he going to go? And it's not too much to give away, considering it happens in the opening scene, that he wakes up in the opening scene in a pool of blood next to a dead body. And then he starts to reveal his spiraling situation. And from that moment on, you're captivated. And all eyes are on Jon Hamm. And he's got a nice supporting cast, but he's the reason to watch the series. And yes, Apple TV has yet another winner. Maybe this is why they're not opposed to losing $1 billion a year on this service.
Yeah. Well, I think they're looking at it like an investment, and I think they're looking at it like it's prestige shows, and they want to build a library where people say, well, I got to go to Apple TV Plus for more than just Ted Lasso. And I think they're certainly on that verge of creating a very deep portfolio, like a deeper portfolio than they've had in recent years, which is very impressive.
I think eventually the public that appreciates quality is going to come around.
Yeah. Well, I know you mentioned like last week, kind of like that HBO effect, where that's where the top level shows are, and that's kind of what they want to. It sounds like that's what they want to become, and that's
fine.
That's not a bad thing at all. I mean, and maybe it's. We've always kind of looked at the streaming wars as competition for other players in this game stepping up their games. And I think that, when you put out shows like this, whether it's Ted Lasso or The Studio or Your Friends and Neighbors, and people respond to them, it's going to inspire you hope that HBO is going to start churning out better product or more product and get back on track. And Max is going to do the same, and Peacock and Paramount Plus and Amazon. We're going to talk about Amazon here in a few minutes. So it's good to see that there's competition out there, and you don't want it to be sort of monopolized like maybe the box office has become in so many ways the last few years.
I noticed you didn't mention Netflix there.
Well, I mean, I think the problem is there's maybe more stinkers in Netflix than there are
Winners.
triumphs.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's not to say that Netflix doesn't serve a purpose. I mean, they're definitely a quantity content provider. And there's a little bit of quality, interspersed in there. I know you've talked a lot about some of the shows you like there over the, the last few years, but it just seems like, that's not the go-to anymore. And, we'll see what happens. But, I just feel like at the end of the day, is it possible maybe that Apple TV Plus kind of has a breakthrough in a way, and, we'll see what kind of happens here. Like maybe they have a breakthrough and become that go-to streamer, and they're not talking about losing $1 billion anymore or anything like that.
I think here's a bold prediction. I think they lead the Primetime Emmy Awards this year. How's that for a prediction? And I think with that hopefully comes some cachet, and it opens some eyes as to what they offer, and how it's akin to the early aughts when there was a golden age of television before Netflix. I mean, I'd say Stephen Bochco, but I'm thinking more David Kelly, stuff like that. And you see people like David Kelly going on to streaming platforms with Netflix and The Lincoln Lawyer, for instance. But I think that's what they're going to have.
Yeah. Well, and we talk, about streaming, and it's very big right now. The Bondsman is our next show that we're going to discuss here. Kevin Bacon getting into the streaming game, probably so you can play 1 Degree of Separation with Kevin Bacon in the future, because he is going to work with about everybody now, it seems like. But Kevin Bacon gets back on the screen here. What do you think about The Bondsman?
Well, I like the fact that it's bingeable. They dropped all 8 episodes. Okay. It's fun having Kevin Bacon put on with a Southern accent, an good old boy Southern accent. This is my lead. This is next week's column, by the way.
Yeah.
Our streaming column. Watching 15 years of Supernatural on the CW prepared me for The Bondsman.
Okay.
And, if take it in that context, escapist quasi-horror from Blumhouse, that tells you its pedigree. But take it in that context, I watched 3 episodes today, found it to be very enjoyable. Kevin Bacon is having fun. He plays a bondsman who goes out to pick up one of his quote-unquote clients, and that client and his brother set him up, and they kill him. Slit his throat, gory stuff, like you'd expect from Blumhouse, right? But he awakens after being dead, and there are these signs all around him that something's going on that he ignores. He keeps getting spam phone calls. He keeps getting, this is a bondsman with a physical answering machine. He keeps getting spam messages on his answering machine in his office. And it's soon revealed that one of the devil's assistants is trying to get in touch with him. And that assistant has informed him he was resurrected to serve as basically a bounty hunter for the devil, hunting down demons that have escaped hell, which is shades of supernatural in some regards.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a fun, good time so far. Like I said, it seems very bingeable. I interrupted watching this to go to Your Friends and Neighbors. So,
Okay.
And one really interesting part, his character's name is Hub Halloran. You know, I don't know if you watch Supernatural at all.
I did not.
Okay. It was about two monster hunting brothers, and eventually it was focused on them hunting demons. Sam and Dean Winchester. Okay. With Hub, it's Hub and his mother, whose bail bondsman business he works for, doing most of the hunting here in the hopes that they could eventually save his soul. And the chemistry, and I don't have the actress's name in front of me, between Kevin Bacon and the actress who plays his mother is absolutely hilarious. It just they are mother and son. It's a good time. You know, you could do a lot worse spending on binging this on a weekend. Warms up.
All right. Well, it sounds like a couple of good options for people to check out on TV. You know, obviously we're always hoping for movie releases. Do you have anything coming up on the horizon?
Oh man. Drop is releasing when? I'm supposed to see Drop next week.
Okay.
That's horror. I'm not necessarily all that interested in it, but I'll probably like bite the bullet and go just because, movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay.
So
Well,
that's
there's
about it
always
on the
something going on.
horizon.
Yeah, always something. Well, I hate to cut short, but unfortunately, I need to get going here. But as always, George, we appreciate you stopping by, talking movies and streaming. You can always check out George's reviews and his weekly streaming columns as well at George on thebeaconjournal.com. You can follow George on various social media avenues by George Thomas at Blue Sky Social. George, thank you so much for stopping by. We hope you have a good time in the theaters. Would be nice moving forward here, but we definitely hope you
control over it. Well, next week I have control, so yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Well,
one thing.
Yeah.
Are you looking forward to Superman or no? Is it on your radar?
I mean, it's on the radar, but it's not.
You were hot for Crypto, right?
Well, I mean, I'm interested to see what they do with it.
There's an extended sneak peek that just dropped. Take a look at it. Plenty of Crypto. That's all I wanted to say.
I did see that. I did see that extended from CinemaCon. I don't find Superman all that compelling as a character because it's Superman. It would be like, the Incredible Hulk as a character. If it's not for Bruce Banner, there's nothing really to worry about with Hulk. He is going to win the day because he's a green alien that can barely be stopped, other than maybe by Superman, I suppose. But
see, that's why I liked Zack Snyder's take on the character so much. It was a compelling character. There was an evolution. He wasn't just Mr. Goody good guy, truth, justice, and whatever it is now. But I get what you're saying. I understand.
Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, I've heard it's got to be a big one for Warner Brothers, otherwise they're maybe in trouble. But I'm sure it's going to make some good money. Will it make a big profit? I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I didn't love the Zack Snyder Superman movies so much, just because I felt like they were shot in a blender. Everything was just moving so fast, and it was just I think it's hard for people to follow the action when things are edited like that and just shot in like this super speed up motion. It just not my favorite, but we'll give it a chance. I like James Gunn's Suicide Squad for sure. So yeah.
Well, you and I both know it's Zack Snyder, Zack Snyder and Michael Boom Boom Bay.
Yes.
I mean, like I said, I like the take on his take on the character. Not, I like the scope of him, but eh, I get your point with the way it's shot, the way it's edited. So, fair point.
All right. Well, as always, George, we appreciate you stopping by. We hope you have fun watching some movies and TV this week. We will talk to you again very soon.
All right, dude.